Caligula, whose birth name was Gaius Julius Caesar, was the emperor of Rome from 37 to 41 AD. He was born on August 31, 12, in Antium and was the son of Germanicus and Vipsania Agrippina Maia. Caligula's early life was marked by the political machinations of the powerful Cianus. He began his reign with promise, but over time, he became increasingly autocratic and cruel, using his power to execute many senators and confiscate their property. He was eventually assassinated by the Praetorian Guard, and the Senate declared a damnatio memoriae against him. At the time of his death, his full title was Gaius Caesar Germanicus Augustus, Pontifex Maximus, Tribunicia Potestate 4, Consul 4, Imperator, Pater Patrii. Caligula, whose real name was Gaius Julius Caesar Augustus Germanicus, had a difficult childhood. His father, Germanicus, died under suspicious circumstances when Caligula was only 7 years old. After his father's death, Caligula was taken in by his grandmother, Livia, and later by his other grandmother, Antonia Minor. This was likely done to protect him from potential assassination attempts as he was one of the remaining male heirs of Tiberius. As a result of this isolation, Caligula developed a strong bond with his sister Drusilla. When he was in his teens, Caligula was summoned by Tiberius to the island of Capri, where he was able to win the trust of his great-uncle. When Tiberius died on March 16, 37, it was clear that Caligula would take his place as the next emperor. He was officially declared imperator by the Senate on March 18, and had already been proclaimed imperator by the Praetorians on the day of Tiberius' death. The Senate then transferred all of the powers and privileges that Augustus and Tiberius had accumulated to Caligula on March 28. To make up for the succession process, Caligula adopted Tiberius Gemellus, giving him the hope of participating in power and possibly becoming emperor in the future. Caligula's assumption of power was met with high expectations, as many were excited to see change after the tumultuous final years of Tiberius' reign, and Caligula's father Germanicus was a popular figure. When Caligula first became emperor, he made efforts to win over the ruling classes by reducing taxes, ending treason trials that had been started under his predecessor Tiberius, and allowing exiled senators to return to Rome. He also distanced himself from Tiberius by expelling a group known as the Spintrii. Additionally, he gained the support of the Praetorian Guard, the elite troops who protected the emperor, by giving them a monetary gift. He also made a symbolic dedication to the Temple of Divus Augustus in order to emphasize his connection to the first emperor Augustus. Caligula, the emperor of Rome, took actions that made him popular with the people but drained the treasury. He organized expensive events such as chariot races, animal hunts, and gladiatorial games which became increasingly brutal during his reign. These events were not criticized in ancient times, but Caligula committed many atrocities in connection with them. He may have had a nervous breakdown and a serious illness after 6 months of reign, which caused him to start high treason trials against those who he believed were conspiring against him, like his adopted son and father-in-law, and his praefectus praetorio, and forced them to commit suicide in order to protect his rule. On June 10, 38, Caligula's favorite sister Julia Drusilla died, and he honored her with ceremonies that were typically reserved for only the most important men in Rome. Soon after her death, he married a woman named Lollia Paulina, but quickly divorced her to marry a woman named Milonia Caesonia, whose background was uncertain. Caligula was a Roman emperor who ruled for a short period of time. During his reign, he only led a few small military campaigns, which are not well documented. He tried to expand Roman territory by crossing the Alps with an army, following in the footsteps of previous emperors and attempting to conquer Germania and Britannia. However, these efforts were not successful and Caligula was forced to retreat without gaining any new territory. Additionally, he did not establish the necessary infrastructure to make the conquered areas official Roman provinces, which did not happen until 85 BC. The sources report that Emperor Caligula's campaign against Britannia was filled with grotesque actions, such as having his troops collect sea mussels on the beaches of the Channel to represent the success of the campaign. Plans for a luxurious triumphal procession, in which Gallic gladiators with dyed red hair would be presented as Germanic prisoners of war, were ultimately not carried out. However, the coinage of Caligula shows the military size of the princeps, which contradicts the literary tradition. Caligula's foreign policy was successful, as he appointed Herod Agrippa I as king of Judea, and expanded his territory further to include all areas over which his grandfather Herod the Great had ever ruled. He also murdered King Ptolemy of Mauritania and annexed his territory, although the reasons for this are not entirely clear. Caligula was known for being a collector of art treasures, particularly those from Greece and Egypt. He sought to acquire famous pieces such as the Zeus statue of Phidias and had a pink-red granite obelisk from the Egyptian city of Heliopolis brought to Rome and placed in a circus he built. He also used his wealth to fund grand construction projects, including a lighthouse in northern France, the reconstruction of a palace on the island of Samos, the construction of 2 aqueducts for Rome, and the restoration of city walls and temples in Syracuse and Thermae in Bologna. Caligula was known for his ambitious building projects during his reign as Roman emperor. He is said to have planned to construct a canal across the Isthmus of Corinth and to build roads across the Alps. He also oversaw the development of the port of Rhegium and the construction of 2 large ships called the ships of Nemi, which were used for both ritual and private purposes. In Rome, he built the Circus Gariet Neronis on the slope of the Mons Vaticanus, renovated the Theatre of Pompey, and built a luxurious wooden amphitheatre. He also expanded the state prison and furnished the private rooms and pleasure gardens of the emperor. One of his most spectacular projects was the construction of a bridge across the Bay of Naples between Pozzuoli and Baiae. He also staged a mock battle known as the Battle of the Shells on the coast of Gaul, which was believed to be a theatrical announcement of his plans to invade Britannia. Caligula was a Roman emperor who ruled for only 4 years before being killed by members of the Praetorian Guard. The assassination was led by a tribune named Cassius Chaerea and was supported by a group of senators and other powerful figures at court. The reason for the assassination was due to Caligula's financial mismanagement, as his spending on political support, generosity, and extravagance had depleted the state's treasury. He also made false accusations against individuals to seize their money and assets, and even had some killed. He also imposed taxes on lawsuits, marriages, and prostitution, and even began auctioning the lives of gladiators during games. Caligula, who was the Roman emperor, was known for his excessive use of force, especially against senators. He inherited property from Tiberius, who was his predecessor, but interpreted it as bequeathed to him instead. He also forced centurions who had acquired riches through plunder to hand over their spoils to the state. Additionally, the trustees via were accused of incompetence and embezzlement and forced to pay back money. Caligula also ordered high treason trials, which had been settled after the death of Tiberius, to be resumed in large numbers. This led to numerous executions or other severe punishments, such as banishment, of upper-class individuals, soldiers, and actors. In some cases, Caligula even had senators tortured, despite the fact that their position legally protected them from it, treating them as if they were slaves. The high treason trials offered a certain legal leeway for his actions. These actions were the main cause of the conspiracy against Caligula. Thanks for watching this video. If you liked the video, please subscribe to our channel.